And welcome to episode 17 of the Inside Drive podcast. As we are as excited about our guest, very excited about our guest today, my good friend Coach Griffin, the head coach of the Arnold Marlins football team. And of course, as we do, always have Jay Hendley as my sidekick on Thursdays. Maybe he'll bring some stories to us today. We shall find out about halfway through. As always, got to mention my great sponsors. We'll start with Panhandle Credit Union. The quality relationships they have with our community is what Panhandle Credit Union is all about, whether it's sponsoring event, donating to a cause, or providing loan options or setting up people with great banking products. Panhandle Credit Union is here to serve those who live, work, worship, and attend school in Bay and other surrounding counties. As they say, together, Panhandle Credit Union builds community. Visit panhandlecu.org or swing by any location to join. I do want to mention real quick that I'm going to be a little off today, my voice and probably the way I look, so just take all things into consideration. Of course, got to give a shout out to my good buddy Alan Watson over there at Golf Plus. Jay, how important is getting your clubs fit in this day and age for golf?
Very important. Very important.
Where can you go to do that?
Golf Plus.
Are they the best in the area?
They are the best in the area.
I don't know if there's anybody else in the area, but they are certainly one of the best in the area. Alan Watson and his team, they know what to do to get you fitted, to get you fixed up. If you're looking to buy a new set of clubs, you know, I saw an ad on Facebook for Temu golf equipment the other day, and I was going to share something that said if you want to buy cheap golf equipment, your game is going to be cheap. But if you want to buy good golf equipment and get your game better, because you can kind of buy a game between you and Atlin if you combine those two resources, you know, buying some new sticks and then also getting some golf lessons from you, you get your game where it needs to be and just stay off that Temu golf equipment. I wouldn't even imagine what that would look like. If you need some club repairs as well, they got tour van quality repairs every time, and if you need it fast, they'll get you in and out quick. They got grips. They got full retail. They've got the swing simulator to test out everything as well. They can fine-tune you down to exactly what you need to have in your golf clubs. And just like any sport, if you're not playing with the right equipment, it's not going to be that easy. They are located over there in the shops at Edgewater, right next to Firefly, another sponsor here of the Inside Drive, who we appreciate very much. I did not do a American Charlie's Athlete of the Week this week, Beth, but I think we had an okay reason to forget doing that. But I want to talk about that a little bit here for a second. I posted on Facebook yesterday afternoon while we were trying to get the hell out of the hospital. And I said, what is it easier to do, get the hell out of the hospital or get the heck out of jail? I would say it's probably easier to get out of jail than it is a hospital. You know, obviously you go in trying because you want to get better, but then when you're ready to leave, you're certainly ready to leave. And we were ready to leave yesterday, and I will say the majority of the people were super helpful over there at the hospital. And if you end up on the ICU unit, that's like the Plaza Hotel in New York compared to some of the other locations there in the hospital. But we eventually, my wife broke me out. We escaped, and we're just kind of taking it easy, you know, getting back in the podcast world. We'll have a little football practice tonight. We'll want to watch some of the new plays we're installing for the playoffs. Very excited for the Beach Marlins to take on, I believe it's the Vernon, they're the Tigers? No, it's Chipley. Vernon is the Yellow Jackets. Sorry, I'm just getting better with all these mascots of all of our surrounding teams. So looking forward to getting back out there on the football field. We're obviously Coach Griff. Our next guest is that's where he spends his time, and right now not having to be in the dentist chair. So maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing depending on what's going on. But Griff, thanks for joining us today on the show. Thanks for moving it a couple times as well. But we'll start with just some easy questions. You've been in coaching for 27 years. Yeah. Where did your coaching career start?
Well, it started by accident, to be honest with you. You know,
it's funny how certain things start.
It's funny you mentioned, you know, with golf and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I was over in Pensacola, and I say attending UWF. I didn't do much attending at that point. I was kind of trying to figure some things out, and I was kind of taking, you know, I took about 3 years there, and I was working as a bartender, and, you know, started, I had some buddies that were club pros in Pensacola, and I got to, you know, a lot of friends over there, and then so I ended up playing a lot of golf, and I learned how to play golf. You know, I never really played much. You know, kid from Millville, golf really wasn't something we did down there. But I picked it up over there in Pensacola and had some good buddies, and I ended up picking up a little caddy gig.
Yeah.
For a guy named Steve Bedford, and Steve and I traveled around. He played some on the Teardrop Tour, and I believe maybe the Nationwide Tour, what it was called then.
Nationwide, that was what, a step down from the PGA. Yeah, he must have been really good.
He was really talented. This is back in the 97, 98 in that time period. So, that was kind of the life, and I was kind of just 3 years of just figuring some things out, if you will. And a buddy of mine got a job over at Pensacola Catholic High, and they didn't have a lot of help, so he reached out to me and asked if, he's a, guy that played against in high school. He played at Georgia Southern. I played at Tennessee Martin, and, we knew each other for a long time. And he called me up and said, hey, man, we could use some help. And, I went down there and, met the head coach, Keith Ainsley, and, kind of, just checking it out.
Yep.
And next thing you know, I'm the offensive coordinator. First job, I was no more ready for that than a man in the moon. I was, well, fake it till you make it. I'll tell you. So 2 years, I did a little bit of that. It's over Catholic, trying to figure some things out, and I was about as clueless as.
That's the old trial by fire for sure.
It was, when looking back, at the time you think you got all things figured out. I played college football, I know everything. Well, looking back, I didn't know anything, and so. And really traveling around, we were in a tournament at a casino up there in Lula, Mississippi. And the Women's World Cup was on, and it's the one where Chastain kicks the goal, rips her shirt off and all that thing. And I was
your favorite World Cup ever, Jay?
Hey, it's great. Sounds great. Sounds good.
You don't remember that?
No, I don't.
Of course you don't.
Yeah.
Well,
it's one of the most iconic memories in U.S. soccer history.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'd remember it if you saw it.
Yeah, it was remarkable. And that, we were in this hotel casino, and it was really kind of a trucker interstate kind of place, really smoky. And, I'm not much, I hate to lose. So gambling's not really my thing. It's not really about the money. I just hate to lose. And I was up in the hotel room, and Steve was down, gambling. He liked to do that stuff. And, I was in the hotel room, and I was watching this thing on TV alone in a hotel room in Lula, Mississippi. And I'm jumping on the bed and going, it was really, it was remarkable. You remember how phenomenal that
penalty kicks to win the World Cup.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And, I really sat there thinking to myself, I was like, what am I doing? What in the world am I doing? I feel like I was, some things dawned on me right there. And I called my old high school football coach, Steve Harden. And I said, hey, coach, I think, I've been coaching, thinking about coming back. He said, well, I got nothing for you. But I know a guy. So he sent me over to Mosley for Charlie, with Charlie Tate for a couple of years. I worked over there. And then after 2 years over at Mosley, I moved over to Rutherford. And I was at Rutherford for a long time. And then moved out with Josh Wright when he was the head coach at Arnold, and that translated into the head football coach job at Bozeman. Yeah. And then back to Arnold now. So that's the whole.
Wow. So always been in Florida.
Yeah. I've always been in Florida, and I never dreamed of being a football coach. It was never something never even on my radar, and it just sort of, for lack of doing anything else, it's kind of how I ended up. And then once I kind of got into it, man, I loved it. I love the kids. I love the challenge. There's just so much about the job that I do love. And again, I never expected to do it, but I can't imagine doing anything else now.
Absolutely. And you have to love it to spend so much time like y'all do to, get where everything needs to be, because coaching is not just, it's not just the X's and O's. It's all the other things that people don't see behind the scenes. Obviously a lot of time away for your family and all that stuff. What, between when you started coaching and now, what are some of the biggest differences in your opinion that, high school football has obviously changed a lot. College football has changed a lot. Kind of the whole football landscape has changed a lot. But what are some of the things that people may not realize that when you first started coaching are so different than now?
I think, for me, pretty clearly is, when I first started coaching, kids grew up in a neighborhood. They went to that school. There wasn't a lot of transferring.
We talked about that with Coach Manley.
Coaching was a very different thing. You coached those kids. You coached hard. There's a lot more accountability. And it was a lot tougher. And you did things that kind of from an old school standpoint. Yep. And good football coaches were tough guys that that really pushed guys hard. And as it's evolved over the last 20 some years, and even before the transferring. But, even with just the social media, the kids have so many more distractions now.
Yes.
So many more things at their fingertips. So many, So, to convince kids to come out and do the things that it takes to win football games is challenging to do. Get these kids to come out, be there all summer while their kids are on the beach and doing, hanging out and doing all these things, to get kids to commit. And now, for me, it used to, it was just they were going to be there. We knew they were going to be there, and we could, push them. Now, getting them there. Convince them that this is...
Yeah, this is what you want to do. You want to put this much effort and grind and push your body to the limit to play a football game, whereas before it was just everybody thought that's what you did and you had to do.
Right.
So, that makes sense, is you got to convince them to just get out there. That's a challenge in itself.
Yeah, whenever, TikTok and all the things, they get so many other things, and, to get them to want to do that, man, it's a challenging thing. And I think there's so much more psychology in it now versus just... whipping them into submission. It's there's a whole, there's a lot more depth to it than when I first broke in.
What do your Saturdays look like versus a win and a loss?
I'm sure my wife could speak to that considerably better than me. But I try to leave the job at work as much as I can. I mean, I'll tell you this: as we were talking before we came on, man. This past Friday was probably one of the toughest losses I ever took in my life, and that may sound weird, with all the things I've done. But this past Friday was a tough one for me. It was challenging for me, but one thing is, I married well. You have a wife that understands the job and is so supportive. That's incredibly important because she understands what it's going to be like if I lose. But I think for me, I'm one of those kind of strange people that I really it's not winning for me. I hate to lose more than I like to win.
Yeah.
And so for me, winning is just what should happen, what I expect.
What you're
to
working
happen. It's
for
not
and you
really something to
expect.
celebrate.
Yeah.
I want the kids to celebrate.
Yes.
And the kids to be happy about the reward for all the work that they've done. But for me, it's just kind of what I expected to happen. Then when I lose, it's a very challenging thing for me on a personal level, because it's just that I don't know, failure. It's just things that are frustrating for me. So I try to, and having two small children, you try to get up on Saturday, and of course, one of the things that's really helped is the Beach Marlins.
Yep.
Get my daughter, she's a cheerleader, my son playing football, and to get up and no matter how miserable I feel, how bad I'm taking a loss or whatever, or how tired I am after a win, et cetera, getting up and getting those kids to a football game, man, that kind of changes the whole perspective for me.
Of what it's really about.
It really is, man. And I'll tell you, that's been such a cool thing for me is having young kids and doing that. And so that's probably kept me from being, because I really love being a dad. I really, and I don't want to be a miserable guy for my kids on the weekends. And the little bit of time they get to see me because I'm so away from them, and I devote so much to the job that my kids don't get to see me a lot during the week. So I think it's been great for me to be able to shift that gear and say, okay, well, today's Dad Day, and I'm so thankful for you guys, man, and Donnie and all those guys, because
it's a great group.
It is, man. It's phenomenal. I can't imagine a better group of guys, and so it's great for me to just turn my kids over, Chelsea, the cheer and all that, just turn my kids over and me just sit off to the side and watch it. And I'll tell you, it's really therapeutic for me just to sit off and watch guys do it. And I appreciate it so much that you guys are devoting that time and the volunteer. I'll tell you, I'm so grateful for it. And for me to just be able to turn my kids over to people I trust and sit back and just watch it.
It's a very calming feeling to be able to do that.
I'll tell you, the day when we went to Chipley, I was in a not great place at that time. I was, a lot of things going on, really tough. And I remember walking into that stadium, man, and I saw kids running around playing and the football, and I just, I sat there and it kind of completely changed my whole demeanor as I'm looking around. And I was like, man, this is what it's about.
Absolutely.
This is what it's supposed to be. Yeah. With all the things I had going on, I was like, man, this is what it's supposed to be.
That's right.
And so that was a great day for me to, even though we made that ride to Chipley and I wasn't feeling really good, man, that experience up there, really changed a lot for me that day. And, that's kind of been consistent for me on Saturdays.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Very, very cool. Good question, Jay. I'm going to give you some kudos on that.
Hey, thank you.
First time I've been asked that.
All right.
That is a very, very good question. I was looking for a picture I took of you at one practice. Everybody thinks head coach is just the X's and O's and all that stuff. Obviously, you have your team, your assistants, but a lot of the other things, you're kind of the heart of the entire football program. You were up on the goalpost using a little grinder trying to get the goalpost to go back together. And I turned around and I snapped a picture. I was like, this is what people don't see that you guys have to do, want to do, all that stuff to keep the football program going. And that's not just for your program. It's the Beach Marlins. It's everything that's involved with your organization. And I just thought that was really cool. And I wanted to bring that to the attention because a lot of people may not realize, it's just you out there most of the time and you're putting your time, your effort in to making sure everything's what it needs to be out there at the Arnold, not just the facility, the practice facility and everything that's out there. And then I was going to kind of parlay that into what you were just talking about with Mason and it's Delaney, right?
Delaney, yep.
In football and cheer. And, you just kind of already answered my question. They get to go out there. They get to have the time. It's also your time with them because you're the one bringing them out there and having that fun. So it's like you're rooted so deeply, and people may not realize how rooted a head coach is in a program because we really don't have the true city all the way up to high school programs in this area. And Arnold certainly can be one of them and is one of them. Yep. And I think you're doing a fantastic job with that. So I just wanted to mention, I see things out there that other people may not see, and we really appreciate it. We appreciate it as, people being involved in the organization as well. But obviously, we'll get to some tougher questions. But during the season, obviously, you were handed down a suspension that was eventually reduced to 4 games, not after having to hire an attorney and even having to deal with some extended costs and all that stuff. I don't really know the whole details of everything, so I'm not going to speak in detail. But just wanted to give you kind of an opportunity to talk about, that just doesn't affect your football program, that affects you, that affects your family. And again, kind of the behind the scenes stuff is, that stuff like that, does a lot more damage than people may realize. And I just wanted to give you a chance to kind of, tell people that may not know, it's not just you were not coaching football games for 4 games, and then obviously you got back out there. But yeah, just kind of wanted to ask you what it was kind of like, how you dealt with that personally and all that stuff. And has it made you a little bit stronger as a person coming out of this now? Because obviously we all go through stuff that's tough, and that resilience side of thing, it's so important in life because you're going to get things handed down to you that you don't expect, don't necessarily deserve, and it's how you bounce back from those things that defines who you are as a person. And I think you did a fantastic job of it.
I appreciate that. That was probably one of the most challenging experiences
I can
of
only
my life.
imagine.
It went on for a long time, and when it first started, based on what happened, I expected it to be a much smaller, sanction.
Yes.
Based on what went on, and so when it came down as serious and as heavy as it was, it didn't make any sense. And that was the frustrating thing is that, and so, as you start looking into it, it was tough as, every time we looked into something, something else, would pop up, and it just, these rabbit holes as we started going into it, and I kept waiting, honestly, I kept waiting. I said, where are the grown-ups?
Yeah.
Where are the grown-ups going to step in and say, look at this thing and say, okay, this doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But that never happened. And so, of course, it was difficult for my family, luckily, my wife, very supportive, with all those things. And she knows me.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people know me and knew the situation. And, so she was very supportive in that, of course, we found a very good attorney, Dave Roberts. He's a labor and employment attorney, and he really had some experience with the FHSA, and I talked to actually several lawyers, but and some folks offered to take it on for free. But Dave really had some expertise in it, and as we started looking into it, we hired him, and it was $10,000 retainer, and that's not, I'm a football coach. That's not, that's not an easy thing to do.
A lot of football coaches' salaries.
But I felt like the principle of it, is worth it was worth every penny, and then as as you look into it, and I think what we found is the most challenging thing for me. Is not the same. It was learning that some guys that I had been really good to them and their families.
Yeah,
I would really done some some things for them and their families, and really taking care of them that they chose to harm me and my family.
Yeah.
And for reasons unknown to me, but only to them. And that was the challenging thing, was trying to figure that out and understand why that happened. And what was to be gained, and what that still doesn't make sense to me. After what I'd done for some folks, and for to have them to do what they did, really didn't make any sense to me. So that was a very difficult thing for me to rationalize. Not sure that I have, to be honest with you. But then
that may take some time.
Yeah, but then there's the realities of it. And the realities of it was a very serious sanction and harmed my seniors, harmed my football team, and was an overt attempt and a covert attempt to really do damage to my program. And so, we talk about adversity. As a football coach,
yes.
We preach adversity. We talk about dealing with failure and all these things, and and we talk about that with the kids in terms of sport. And in their own lives, I encourage, kids when, they have problems at home and girlfriends and whatnot, I have these, I bring them in my office and we talk about life. And, but here it is. I'm not talking to a kid.
Yeah.
I'm looking in the mirror and I'm dealing with this. And then I've got to go to work every day and talk about leading by example. I've got to show these guys that in the face of something that I felt was wrong, I'm still going to come to work today. I'm still going to show up. I'm not going to run from it. I'm going to fight it,
yep.
And I'm not going to back down from it. And I think that was the thing that was challenging, because I tell you, it'd been very easy just to run and bury your head in the sand, and just say, okay, and
that's the easy way out.
That is the easy way out, and I don't think that would have been doing justice to my kids,
100%.
My players, and it certainly been doing justice to my own children.
Absolutely.
To show them that, Dad's not going to be mistreated and just taken. And I don't want my own children to think that they have to do that in life. I want them to be able to stand on their own 2 feet and face these things when they come, and if they feel like something's been done that's not fair or that's unjust, that I want them to be able to stand up to it. So, but saying that and living it,
Obviously, two different
things, and that was it's been a tough couple of months. It was tough. It was really tough on my wife, but I think it was therapeutic for her as she worked. She helped with the attorney, and she worked and she learned so many things about what had happened in the process and how things had gone on. I think that was therapeutic for her to kind of figure this out. And I think it made her a little angry. The more things we discovered, every rabbit hole we went down, there was just, there was some frustration about some things that went on. And again, it's like I said all along, had the sanction come back that was reasonable. They'd given me, again, with the thing that happened in the county a couple of years ago, there's 3 kids from another school practicing with the team.
Yeah.
And it was a 1-game deal and a pretty small fine. And had that happened, I probably would have said, mea culpa, okay, let's move on, let's get down, down the line. But that's not what happened. And it was absolutely insane, the sanction that came about this. And again, I wasn't, I've been accused of recruiting anybody. I didn't invite anyone to come to the school. Some folks just showed up, and whether or not the procedure was done correctly or not, again, and there's some other circumstances. My daughter, there's a whole host of things. It was just a crazy day that day. But be that as it may, had it been reasonable, and I felt like I was treated fairly,
Yeah.
I can accept it. When I do things, you ask anybody that's played for me, when I make a bad call and we're in film, I don't blame anybody. I'll tell the football team, hey, that's a stupid call and I made it, and I'll stand up and I'll own the things that I do, and I want those guys to do the same thing. And but I don't think that this was reasonable or fair. And the more we've looked into it, it's not just what I think anymore. At first, it's what I thought, and now it's things that I know, and that's been the most hurtful. You can know that folks intentionally tried to harm me and my family and my players and my program, and that's
It's not
it's
right.
scary. And when I tell you, it's high school football.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing? And I, of course, the other guys are doing other things that they're considerably worse than me, and for those folks to, again, it still doesn't make any sense to me, and it's a difficult thing. And again, like you said, I still haven't been able to rationalize and make any sense of it, other than the fact that maybe some good will come out of it down the road or at some point, and that's the thing that keeps you moving, is that maybe this will fix something or do something, But we're still sitting here today, trying to understand why these folks that I've done so much for chose to do this thing is almost incomprehensible. And then, the path that it set us down and all the things that have transpired since then, and the challenges that, with my family and everything, it's difficult. You try to explain, okay, well, why?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, Ryan, and I'm gonna try not to, get emotional when I talk about this, but one of the things that really helped me was you. I'll be honest with you. You sit there and you start thinking about my situation, and really at the end of the day, feeling sorry for myself and coming in, man, and then looking at the challenges that you're facing, to be honest with you, man, and seeing how you would show up out there at Beach Marlins practice every day, smile on your face, man. You would just, the way that you face this thing, that you talk about on the run, Barry, hide, this is something that would cripple most normal people. But the fact that you faced it, man, with just unbelievable grace. And I'll tell you, that was, that for me helped me at a time, man, when I was probably, I was struggling quite a bit, man, being able to look across the field and see you, facing what you were facing. Hell, it made my thing really small in comparison. And so, I got to thank you, man, and appreciate you for, for the example that you set for me.
That makes me feel good, and if I can get through this, I'm gonna try my best.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
It's okay.
But that's just how I felt.
Because if there's just one person that I can help, that just makes it so much easier for me to deal with the situation.
You're looking at one, buddy. I promise you.
I appreciate it.
You were an inspiration to me. Just at a time when I felt like feeling sorry for myself and feeling like the world was against me, man. Just seeing you face this thing, man. I'll tell you, it was so unbelievably inspirational for me, man. And at a time when I really needed it, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, and like I always say, there's so much support in this community. I mean, obviously there's crappy things that happen too, but there's so many people that are good in this community that just keep me going. Yeah. And of course, got to thank Beth always. She's just there right behind me. Where they say behind every good man is a woman willing to fight for him all the way to the death.
Absolutely, man.
And that's just reality. So, but yes, I'm so glad you said that, because It just makes it feel worth it to fight as hard. Obviously, there's many other factors why I fight, but if one or two other people can have something come out of it, then I'm doing all I can do with my situation.
Buddy, you were doing more than most folks wouldn't. I tell you, it's inspiration.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'm glad it helped. So it just makes it so much easier.
Yeah, I was thinking about John. I was watching that John Candy on Amazon last night, and I was thinking about you, Mulvey, because it's they're doing a documentary on John Candy, and he left just people in awe back in the day because he cared for people. And it's a great documentary, and I thought about you because you treat so many people so good and so equally, and it's so important. And I'm just thankful to know you and love you. Thanks, as a brother. Buddy.
I pick on you a lot, but I pick on you because I love you.
I know.
Didn't know today was going to go this way.
Yeah, I apologize.
It's okay.
I had to be
Sometimes I need to
you,
let it out.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
All right, back to the regular questions. I just had, when you got back and picked right back up with your football team, how much of a big, not learning curve, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. Were you able to kind of pick back right where you left off when everything went down?
No, I honestly, it was several weeks of prepping in a kind of an alien way. It was. And then, it almost seemed like we were, 4 weeks behind, overall, because we really did 4 weeks that were just, like I said, it was completely foreign to what we normally do. Yes. And then when I got back in, it seemed then we jumped back into a couple, two of the toughest teams in North Florida, and so, kind of walked into a buzzsaw. And, it seems like, we've we haven't quite found our footing, and I feel, because, it's a season, you play your way into things, and, you adapt and adjust and those things. And I felt, 4 of those weeks were kind of, and my assistant coaches did a phenomenal job. Mark Stan did a great job running the offense. My absence, Josh Wright is the interim head coach in DC. All of my assistant, I've got just a phenomenal group of guys, and they did an outstanding job, but it still wasn't who we were. And I think we're still trying to find that footing. And, we've had some challenges, this, like I said, this past Friday was one of the tougher losses I've had in my career, for me on a personal level.
Yeah.
And, I'm never going to make excuses, never going to place any blame, but, just trying to hit the fast forward button and kind of get back to where we were, and that's all we can do.
And that's hard.
It is. It's challenging. And so, that's the only thing that, that we can do. And so, we talk about going back to facing adversity, and I've told those kids, I said, no, I'm not going to hide from it. We're going to face this thing, and we still got a lot of football here on the back end, and we still got a lot to play for, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. I get where does the rest of the season go from here?
Well, I think this week right now we're the 9, so we're not out of it.
Yeah.
If we get some wins on the back end.
When you guys have had a really, really tough schedule so far this year, one of the toughest in the state of Florida.
Yeah, we have. We've had an incredibly tough schedule, and I think, and that's why last week was so frustrating, not that, Fort Walton's well coached, and they're a good football team, got some talented guys. It's just, that's one you felt like, you look down, in the previous week of Walton, you look down and you see a team that's looks like you, the team that you can compete with versus looking down and seeing a team that, looks like a daggum college team.
Yeah.
So that was the frustrating thing is, you don't want to let those get away. And, and moving forward, we got another tough challenge tomorrow night with Mosley, and they're an outstanding football team. Got a lot of talented guys, and then, then we get back to Rickards and Rutherford on the back end. So, if we win some games here, and we still give ourselves an opportunity. So, all is not lost, and it's challenging. With what the kids have already been through to be in this spot. It's just, I'm sure it's just one beating after another, from a mental standpoint, one thing thrown at them, after another. And that's the thing that bothers me the most is that those guys have been, those kids didn't, they didn't deserve what they've had to face. But at the same time, that's life.
Yes,
we talked about
100%.
that.
And hopefully they'll remember this season, and when they get older and they face other difficult challenges, they can look back and say, we got through that with flying colors and came out on the other side. We can get through whatever this is now too. So absolutely,
so I tell them, maybe when you face tough times, you're not going to run out on your wife. You're not going to leave your kids. You're not going to quit your job. You're going to come back, and you're going to understand that that if you do face these things and you keep grinding, there are better things ahead. And that's what I'm hoping to give these guys is a little bit better ahead. I'm hoping to give them that before we're done.
And what do they say? It doesn't happen to you; it happens for you.
Sure.
And if you can wrap your head around that,
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some. You guys got your game coming up tomorrow night. What time is it? Where is it at? I know it's at 7. They're all at 7.
Yeah, we're 7. We're at it's our last home game, senior night at Gavlac.
Oh, that's right. Pink out, right?
Probably so. Yeah, that seems to be the with October, and that's a kind of try to be breast cancer awareness. That's one of the things my mother passed from that, and so and I try to that's that was one of the things so. But I'm a little different. I try to keep that in perspective, and that sometimes that becomes a little becomes more of a circus. So I want our kids to be kind of consistent, and do that and bring that awareness without it becoming bigger than what we're trying to do. And so,
for sure,
and that comes again from a personal place, but we have an opportunity to play a very tough team, and that's what I tell these guys. Every week's an opportunity.
Absolutely.
And, it's another opportunity.
The bigger the challenge, the bigger reward on that opportunity.
Sure, and that's what I told them. I said if they don't believe, then it's going to be impossible. They have to believe, and like the coaches believe, and give themselves an opportunity to go play hard, and that's the thing. I told them, one of the challenges I had when I was at Bozeman, particularly from a recruiting standpoint, was college coaches would come in, and you're trying to sell a guy to them, and they would just say, that they played against inferior competition. And I'd hear that so many times, and it used to bother me, because it's a tough thing. How do you overcome that? But that's not a challenge that we're facing at Arnold, because with the schedule we played, they're playing against Division I football players, week in, week out, and guys that so they're going to get an opportunity to be on those films that are going to get seen everywhere. So the inferior competition thing doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So
which is huge for your players, like you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. So these guys have an opportunity, to go out there and play against some really talented players and make a name for themselves. And so that's the thing that we try to impress upon them, that it's an opportunity to do that, and tomorrow night at 7, they're going to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And again, it's an outstanding football team. Tommy Joe does a great job over there at Mosley. He's been very good over there in his time there, and I got a lot of respect for Tommy Joe and how he operates, how much success he's had, and it's just an opportunity for us to go up and compete against a team that that's going to give them a chance to to be seen.
For sure. That was one of the things that I didn't really realize from the recruiting standpoint until we went to that Bluntstown game where you guys played Bluntstown, and they had that running back. I forget his name, but obviously I think he's recruited, or he's going to South Carolina. But, if you're a defensive player and you can run him down or make a really good tackle on me, you're going to be on those highlight films, and you're going to be looked at by those recruiters too. So that was something I didn't really realize that was, a big part of the recruiting process. If you're not just playing better competition, but you're playing individuals that are getting a lot of scouts and film on them, you can end up in that film as well.
Right. If you're in that film, if you jump off that film, it don't matter who they're watching. If somebody else jumps off the film, they're going to go, who's that guy?
Yep.
College coaches, they don't really, it's not like they're looking at film because they're locked into a guy. Anybody that jumps off those films is going to give them, they're going to wonder who that guy is. And so, it's just an opportunity, for guys to be seen. If they want to, if playing college football is what they want to do and all those things, playing against the guys we played against is a great chance to do that.
And kudos for you for giving those guys the opportunity to be in those moments and all that stuff. Obviously, because it's a challenge for the team as a whole, but you can have a little bit of those individual opportunities come out of those big team challenges. So that's certainly cool stuff. I do want to touch, because Coach Mask is a good friend of the show. I don't know the Bay High volleyball coach, but I'm sure I will down the road. But Coach Mask, they're taking on Choctaw tonight I think it's this afternoon. I believe it's I forget which district they're in. It's a good thing I got a phone. Mostly.
Yeah.
I got a little side note when we were up at, what was it? It wasn't Chipley. It might have been Chipley. The only game the seniors lost this year is, the announcer said after that game, he said, we'll be serving up grilled marlin at the concessions or whatever. And I was like, that's wrong for so many reasons. One, because you can't legally harvest marlin. And then 2, it was just rude to say.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I'll tell you, you get some colorful announcers in some of those places, man.
I think he was having some libations as well while he was up there.
Beach
What,
Marlins.
yeah, because I'm so used to, Arnold Marlins, and I've called a JV game before. So the beginning, I really had to focus on not saying Arnold in front of Marlins because I've done some basketball and stuff too. So every time I say Marlins, I usually put Arnold in front of it, which is also very hard to say Arnold Marlins back to back.
No, I can't. I can't even do it.
I like how you wore Arnold blue. I didn't even give you
I
credit for that
know.
yet today. I apologize for that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I finally found it's the 4A District 1 girls volleyball tournament. Obviously, this is Bay, actually. Bay played against South Walton in the semifinals. They won that one. Why is it not moving to the finals? They play South Walton in the finals this afternoon at 6 p.m. Is that the afternoon or the evening, Jay?
Oh, man.
6 p.m. That's a good discussion. Where's the break between afternoon and evening? I'm going to say 5 p.m. So this is an evening game.
I disagree. I think 6.
6 is the cutoff. That seems late.
That's the dinner bell.
What time does Wheel of Fortune come on? 6:30.
Does the time change factor in that?
It should. It should.
Yeah, who's doing Wheel of Fortune now? Isn't that
Ryan Seacrest?
Oh, yeah.
Still Vanna, though, until they bring Vanna's daughter in. I was always a big Wheel of Fortune fan.
Vanna still looks
good. Is it
good.
Pat's daughter?
Is it Pat's daughter? Okay.
So they're just switcheroo, and Ryan Seacrest just came out of nowhere. Like, what's his connection to Wheel of Fortune?
Yeah, good question.
He just shows up randomly and all sorts of things.
He's a short little fella. Did you know that?
Yeah. From Georgia, up there. Yeah, like
He's
who
from
would have
Georgia?
thought he'd be from Georgia? But yeah.
No one, not me.
Yeah, I thought he'd be from Illinois. I said noise.
I know, I heard it. It was noisy, Illinois.
Yeah.
All right, so anyway, sorry. South Walton beat Fort Walton Beach in the 4A district tournament, 4A District 1 tournament. They beat them 3-0, and then Bay beat Pensacola 3-2. So South Walton and Bay play today. I'm going to say in the afternoon for you at 6 p.m. I believe that is at Bay High, and Bay and South Walton both have an opportunity to win that match and move on to the state tournament, because I know the district winners in volleyball get an automatic bid to the regional state tournaments. All right, go back to Mosley. We ran into Coach Mass the other day, Jay, at K-Halls. Free plug there for K-Halls.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good to see her. That was a fun one, too. We've had a lot of good opportunities to interview some really, really cool people, and especially, with Griffin here today. It's pretty awesome. It's been very blessed since things obviously changed and then moved into this podcast world. It's been a good time, and you've been so consistent. I've appreciated it very, very much.
That's unlike me, Ryan.
That's why I gave you some kudos.
One time a week, I'm good. 5 times a week, that was a little too much.
5 times a week is tough for anybody.
Yeah. It is.
All right, 5A District 1. Sorry, it took me a second to get there. Again, you could have been thinking about helping.
I'm just reading about this alligator.
You only got one?
Yeah.
You could be taking this time to find more than one.
No, you get one and like it.
Thanks. Appreciate it. All right. They are playing Choctaw, and I'm trying to remember who they beat to get there. But yeah, I expect Masks Dolphins to get the win and have another regional bid and have a good run at the state Final Four again, as she's been a fantastic coach there for the Dolphins. So
she does. She's done a great job over there for quite a while now. She's impressive with how she runs that program.
Just, kind of a mix between old school and new school, I would say. And like you were talking about how difficult it is just to keep kids motivated, keep them showing up, especially with everything going on and then the access to all this information and needing to put stuff out there, especially if you're trying to move it up to the next level and all that. It seems like that's kind of been a big part of all that.
I love how Coach Mass, when we interviewed her a few weeks ago, Ryan, when she was talking about the state championship, and I don't know why I'm just thinking about this, but she brought all of her kids in.
Yep.
And she would basically told them, "Hey, we're in our house. We're here."
Tried to reset
reset
situation.
The stage.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Really cool.
I still need to get her to send the link to that game because I would like to watch it.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
So there's a lot more psychology in it today than it used to be. Getting kids believing, and it's just it's completely different than it was 20 or 30 years ago when you just
like you said, distractions is the key word.
Loose, yeah.
Like, go. All right, we did all the work. Now go play a game.
It's like at golf. The reason you hit it in the water is because you aim away from your fear. You know, you got to aim at the water to not hit it in the water. It's kind of crazy. Anyway,
Golf is just very counterintuitive, kind
It
of
is.
in general.
Very humbling.
Humbling
Yeah,
indeed. It's kind of wild that you kind of started out, doing some golf stuff.
Yeah, I was about as qualified to be a golf caddy as anyone, but that's
But right, it kind of.
over in Pensacola, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
We got to Pensacola. Yeah,
Where'd y'all play out of?
Steve didn't really need a caddy. He was so talented. He just needed a
Somebody to carry the
wingman.
bag.
Yeah, somebody to carry the bag
And talk them off some.
drive the car and
Right.
handle the luggage basically because he was, and really, he was really high strung and he liked to play fast. A lot of times the tournaments, it's really, really slow. in some of those
Really
tournaments.
slow. You got to keep them
And
calm.
he was a big dude. He was 6'4", 200+ pound guy, and I was a big dude. So I think one of the things is I was one of the ones that could talk to him and calm him down and tell him, hey man, chill him out when that might most folks might not want to do that. So
Right.
that was probably the best thing I did for him was kind of calm
And
him down.
that's such an important part of being a caddy. You've caddied for a few people in the past, right?
have,
And the
yeah.
mental side is you're not out there trying to help their game. You might have to call them off a shot or two over a bad
Right.
decision, but it's more you're just there to walk them through the round and keep their mind right so they can execute and do what they need to do.
Yeah, I don't think I ever picked a club for him. He was a great
Which is
player.
extremely common.
I was there just to be kind of that calming presence.
Yep.
That's right. That's right. Which I'm sure that works does that work in coaching too? I mean,
Yeah, and there are times like I try to tell young coaches, one thing is to be yourself, because a lot of us played for a coach that yelled and screamed all the time, and that may or may not be who you are, and I think there's time and place to do that, but I think trying to be calm when things are going well and when they're going wrong,
Yeah.
I think that's helpful. Just when kids look at
Stable
you,
level.
yeah.
yeah, when they look at you when you're down a couple of touchdowns and they see calmness, they don't see fear, they don't
That's
see
right.
panic, or then
So
when you're
important.
up, when you're up, they don't see the head coach acting foolish over there because because you're up. We're supposed to be. That. So I think that that's what kids need, because they see so many everything their whole life, some little snippets of all this craziness, and it's I think a calming presence is good for kids these days.
Amen to that. It's the definition of a leader.
Yeah,
I feel like.
trying to figure out what that means these days. Like I said, it evolves constantly in what it is and how to do that,
Right.
compared to what it was in the old days. So.
Right.
Got to mention too, North Bay Haven volleyball. I believe that's a district final game as well. That's coming up. They're playing Pensacola Catholic. They're at home. They are 19-6 on the season, so I'm assuming that's a district championship game. So good luck to the Bucks as well. I know those Bucks had a big win in football, I think, last week as well, if I remember. And we do have a Thursday night football game coming up tonight. I know it's a big one for Coach Floyd and the Rutherford Rams, and of course, your former guy, Kevin Pettis, over at Bozeman. I know if Rutherford wins this one, they will win their first district championship since 2021. And then if Bozeman wins this one and then beats North Bay Haven, I know they'll win the district championship. So a big one. I believe that's at Tommy Oliver tonight under the lights. That is a 7 p.m. evening kickoff. So go watch some great Thursday night football. And then coming up tomorrow, as Coach Griff already said, over there at Mike Gavlak Stadium, you got the Mosley Dolphins coming over to take on the Arnold Marlins in the battle of the Sea Life mascots. And then you've got Walton traveling over. I'm assuming that's at Tommy Oliver to take on Bay. Bay 6-1, having a good season, and Walton's 2-5, trying to get another win on the docket. You've also got Destin. I always mention Destin because Josh Woodham, who's Liam's quarterback coach, his son Hamp is the starting quarterback for the Destin. I forget what they are. Sharks, I believe. They're playing Chipley, who's having a good season at 6-1, and then Freeport taking on 8-0 Baker. That's in football. Cottondale, North Bay Haven Academy in football. North Bay Haven 3-4 on the year, and then Wakulla and South Walton both 5-2. That'll be at South Walton, and then Central and Vernon, the matchup of the 0-8 teams. Somebody's going to have a win after this game is over. We'll see if it's Central or Vernon. Where's Central at, Coach?
It's up somewhere. I think it's out there past Crestview. It's another school where they had the J and Northview. I think it's out in that area.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so those are your Friday night lights. We got Thursday night lights and Friday night lights. Lots of opportunity to get out there for what I always say is a very cheap date night. Concessions are always good as well, depending on where you go. But go out and have a fun night. Support these boys that have been working hard all season. That's the biggest thing. Fill up those stadiums, because when they look up in the stands and they see it packed out, you know it's going to make them play better, feel it more excited, all that particular stuff. So get out there, Tommy Oliver Stadium. Get out there to Mike Gavlak tomorrow. Lots of opportunities to watch some great, talented youth athletes in our area. And, of course, go out and support those volleyball girls in these district finals as well. You know, we don't get to do this all the time, so go support them while you have the opportunity. You never know when you're not going to be able to watch any more volleyball or any of that kind of stuff, any football, any of that good stuff. All right, Jay, take it away.
Take it away. We're going, what are we doing?
What the heck? What do you mean, what are we doing? Like, you should know this by now. You're here every Thursday.
All right, we'll do an afternoon
Even though it's the morning
debrief.
That one's a defined one between noon and...
Right. Wendy's drive-through gets a little crazy down in West Palm Beach, Florida.
West Palm. Interesting.
Yeah. Crazy Florida story. Alligators have been used as shoes, briefcases, university mascots, lunch, and now authorities say a deadly weapon. Joshua James, 24, was arrested Monday and charged with assault with a deadly weapon without intent to kill after Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation.
How do they know that? What if that alligator really did want to kill?
Yeah, I don't know. We're about to find out. Officials say he threw a 3.5-foot alligator through a Palm Beach County Wendy's drive-thru.
3.5 is pretty small.
That's pretty small.
Still do some damage.
He was charged with illegally possessing an alligator. Didn't know that was...
you have to have a permit, maybe?
Maybe. And petty theft. Jail records show he was released on a $6,000 bail Tuesday. He was ordered to have no contact with animals.
None at all?
None.
That's probably tougher than going to jail.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a dog fan.
That's a whole nother story. Wildlife officer Nicholas Guerin said in the report that James drove his pickup truck to the window at about 1:20 a.m. Anything after midnight, no bueno.
Nothing good happens after midnight, that's for sure.
After an employee handed James his drink, he threw the alligator through the window and drove off. No one was hurt. And, so he was served an alligator through the drive-through window.
And then served an arrest warrant, too. Here, I meant to get this one weeks ago. The story is kind of right there in that first comment. So I'm just going to hand it to you because I found it. You didn't. Go ahead.
Back in 2019?
Yes, but it's still a good one.
Members of the public raised the alarm over the brightly colored fowl, who was then treated by vets.
A bird, Jay.
Okay, I wanted to clarify that. Yeah. At Tiggy Winkle's Wildlife Hospital in the United Kingdom. They might have been forgiven for thinking the bird was from a tropical climate, but after giving the animal a wash, however, they realized a humble seagull had somehow gotten himself covered in curry or turmeric.
Turmeric. Yes.
It's good for the tummy.
It is good for the tummy.
Good for the tummy.
But basically, it was an orange seagull, and they thought it was some new species, and it turned out to just be a seagull covered in turmeric or curry. I thought that was entertaining.
We can't make this
stuff up. I think I got another one in there.
That's great. Chimpanzees attempt to domesticate penguins in the
great one.
Congo Basin.
Yes.
Okay. Unprecedented cross-species interaction documented in Congo Basin. Chimpanzee troop engages in apparent penguin relocation and care in Congo. That was a good movie, by the way. Do you remember Congo, the movie?
Yep. Amy, good gorilla.
That's right.
Remember we used to talk about that on the radio?
That's right.
That was my childhood. My dad was always watching that movie, and I always thought it was so scary, but he'd always be watching it.
So her name was Amy, and
she had the thing so she could talk with her sign language. She would sign, and then it would vocalize it for her.
That's right.
And then remember the really scary gorillas behind the temple with Mr. Hamoka. Not that I remember this movie as well as I do, but Congo was a good one. If you haven't seen it, I would suggest it.
It's a good one. But researchers operating in the Congo Basin have documented a remarkable and never before seen behavioral event. A troop of chimpanzees is actively engaged in the relocation and apparent care of a group of penguins. Field observations and game trail camera footage confirm that the chimpanzees removed at least 30 penguins from the shoreline and transported them back to their forested habitat. The phenomenon suggests an attempt at cross-species domestication or highly organized relocation efforts. I mean, what's going on here? I mean,
they noticed that the penguins were in trouble and not where they were supposed to be, so they went and got all the penguins and are trying to bring them to where they're supposed to be. So I just thought it was a really neat story. There's a lot of crap out there on the internet too. So when I read stories like this, I always want to bring them to light because it's just a nice, cool story.
That is cool.
Well, I'm not much of a penguin expert, but penguins in the Congo throws me off.
Yeah.
Right.
Why are we in the middle of Africa?
Well, penguins in the Congo is just, I need to study more on my penguins.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I thought they were more in
Where
South
they
Africa
live,
and
yeah.
Antarctica.
Antarctica, yeah. But I do see pictures of them together.
It could be AI too, because everything this day and age seems to be AI. But if that's true, I would like to think it is, because that's very kind of nice that the chimpanzees are trying to take the penguins and do nice stuff with them.
Yeah,
Here, I
that's
think I
cool
got
stuff.
some more.
I like it.
That's what happens when you find more than one.
I'm a one and done kind of guy, Ryan.
That's what she said. That was a tee up. I appreciate you just tossing that softball for me. All right, we'll talk about a little bit of college football games, because there are some. The last 3 weeks have been just like epic college football weekends. Maybe not going the way that you want it to go, depending on your team's, your team. But obviously, Jay, your Georgia Bulldogs keep finding ways to win once you got past Alabama, and actually once you lost to Alabama.
Yeah.
Let's see. You got Oklahoma coming off their first loss this season. They're playing unranked South Carolina. That'll be a 11:45 a.m. kickoff. That'll be a fun one. The big one, though, who you guys playing?
Ole Miss 3:30
Ole Miss 3:30. What
in
channel?
Athens. ABC.
Look at you.
Yeah.
What's the spread?
It's got to be less than a touchdown, I'm sure.
No, it's actually slightly more than a touchdown.
Is it really?
You guys, too.
Oh.
That's because if they get to the goal line and cross it, they're going to just take the touchdown from Ole Miss, so it's easy to keep that spread
That's
over
fair.
a touchdown.
It's fair.
Not that I'm bitter. I didn't even see that live. We were watching the seniors play the Lynn Haven Storm out there at Bozeman, which was very fun and exciting, because the senior team is a good football team, and they could probably win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
I said it here first. Don't take that back from me, Jay.
No, I'm not.
7.5 favorite you guys are between the hedges.
Okay.
Also got some other good ones. I still can't believe how good Indiana is. Kurt Signetti, and then who's their quarterback? I know you don't know that. That was kind of directed at Griff. Kevin O'Rourke. I just remembered. If it's Kevin, I know his last name's O'Rourke. And then who's going to be smoking the cigars on Saturday afternoon, or Saturday evening, 6:30 kickoff in Tuscaloosa. I think that's the third game of the ABC triple header. But Tennessee and Alabama right now. Alabama's 7.5 at home. What do you think about that one, Griff? The Crimson Tide going to be smoking up the stadium, or is Tennessee going to be going back to Rocky Top with some cigars in their hands?
I'll tell you, both of those have kind of been up and down, and
Yes.
you never know what you're going to get on the week. But just the interesting story is I played at Tennessee Martin, and the head coach there is Jason Simpson, and the high school there is called Martin Westview, and Alabama's quarterback is his son, and went to that high school. So
that's awesome.
Kind of an interesting thing, and one of my assistant coaches, Troy Kimmel, we were teammates at UT Martin, so it's just
that's awesome.
Kind of a neat connection there. But ought to be a pretty good football game. Like I said, it depends on which both teams have been up and down, and depends on which one shows up for each.
Yeah, I think we figured out that Florida State win to start the season was more of a fluke than anything, based on how Florida State has continued on through their season and how Alabama has as well.
I really don't think I can even talk about Florida State. It's so depressing. But
their golf team's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got Coach Bond. Next time she's passing through, we need to time it up. So I don't want to do a phone interview with her.
Well, those first couple of games, so much optimism.
Yes.
Like, okay,
and then you beat Alabama, and it's like the optimism goes through the roof.
And then it came crashing down.
But, it's kind of those trials and tribulations, especially in this day and age. One year you got to cycle out an entire new team, and it's just like you said with high school. It's just hard to get them there in general. I couldn't imagine trying to get a group of 70 young men that are in college together after changing over so many of the rosters and being able to have chemistry, because obviously chemistry and how everybody gets along and all that culture is probably the most important thing inside that locker room. And I just don't know how difficult it would be to keep good culture together with people coming in and out every year.
Well, I think the best thing that happened is the NCAA eliminating that second transfer portal
Yes,
window.
yes, the second window.
That everybody was like this. That was the most insane thing because it made spring practice irrelevant.
Yep.
And spring practice exists because that's where you start developing that cohesive and that culture. You start figuring out what your team is, and then having all the transferings after spring, you really don't even know what your team's going to look like into the fall because there's still so much moving around. So that really didn't. That was the craziest thing for me. It didn't make any sense at all. So eliminating that, I think is going to be great. I think moving forward, I think football will be a little better in college because, like I said, they'll beat spring will matter again. And, and they'll kind of have an idea what your team's going to be coming out of spring versus just spring was almost just became almost a waste of time because kids were going to move around.
Yeah, and like you said, spring ball is so darn important. That's for sure.
It is. I was thrilled to see the NCAA eliminate
actually do something to help the game.
With all the craziness.
Yes.
Do they have enough data right now with NIL is 5 years in at this point? Do they have enough data to figure out why these kids are moving from university to university? Is it coaches? Is it
money?
Grass greener on the other side?
Well, with NIL, it's money. I think what the smaller colleges have become it's become almost like a minor league system for the bigger schools. The universities, the Alabamas and whatnot, they're able to look around at the country and kids that maybe
kind of cherry pick kids,
right? Late bloomers that maybe showed up in a D2 school that are phenomenal. So I think that was sort of a unintended byproduct of it, and that's how it's become. And I don't know any solutions for that, but and we have the same issue in high school, with the free transferring and all that stuff. Is that you come out of spring and you think, okay, well, you've done these things in spring and you think this is what your team is going to be, but really, even in high school, you don't know what your team's going to look like until the first day of football practice in August.
Yep.
And then it's like, well, whoever shows up, then this is our football team. Now we can go, and that's a little bit frustrating in that the movement happens. I lost a kid the day before, a couple of days before the season started. One of our best defensive players. And you don't expect that. You don't see that stuff coming, and I think from a college football standpoint now, that's all going to be done before spring, and it may be a little disadvantage for the teams that make the playoff and have to play longer for those kind of kids. But I'm glad to see that there'll be a little more consistency. I think in college football.
Yeah, more rules, a little more structure. That's what we need.
Rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently
rules.
Apparently, it's rules for me, not thee.
Yes.
I've had that experience lately.
Directly. All right, a couple more big games on Saturday, some evening games. One of the teams that's kind of come on, surprising me a little bit, obviously has a good head coach. They got a good quarterback, too. That's the USC Trojans. They're 5-1 on the season. They got the annual Notre Dame game coming up. That'll be on NBC, as Notre Dame games always are. That'll be 6:30 as well. USC trying to get back into the battle for the Big Ten. That'd be wild if another former Pac-12 team could win another Big Ten championship now that Oregon dropped that one game to Indiana. That kind of puts USC into the driver's seat a little bit to make that Big Ten championship game if they keep obviously winning out through the season. Just football feels more normal for me when the men of Troy are up there and involved in a good football team. When they were kind of down there for a little while, it just felt like, when you got the big blue bloods, that are making stuff happen and higher ranked and playing good football, it just seems more normal for me anyway for college football. Not that you want the same teams year in and year out, but kind of they're that Southwest team that kind of anchors that they're kind of the powerhouse down there. Obviously UCLA won a game against Penn State, but obviously Penn State's proven to not be as good as they usually are, especially now with Franklin gone after dropping that game to forget who they lost to last week, and they kind of sealed the deal for Franklin, but it was definitely a team they shouldn't have lost to. They lost 3 in a row, and for Penn State to lose three in a row is just unheard of. And then, Jay, you got the battle of your favorite state, Utah. You got Utah and BYU going against each other, both as top 25 teams. Utah 23, BYU 15. That'll be the Fox Saturday night game. BYU's trying to stay undefeated. Utah only has 1 loss on the season. But I got some comments for that game, but I'm not going to say them. But that'll certainly be another good football game. So just when we thought we were going to not get as much good football this weekend, it's just still right there with the level and the competition. I feel like it's been a really, really good college football season so far. And Coach Griff, we appreciate you coming on today, taking some time to spend with us. Didn't know it was going to be as emotional, but sometimes you just got to let those emotions
I apologize
out.
for that.
There's
but
nothing to be sorry about.
I'm thrilled that you guys invited me, and I'm so glad to be able to be here and be able to do it.
Yes. And certainly, obviously, we'll see you around. And, of course, good luck to the Marlins the rest of the season.
I appreciate
we
that.
might try to sneak out there on Friday night after the fall festival at UA.
Oh, yeah. My kids are torn on that. My kids go to UA as well. And so, we have got to fight not really fight about it. My kids are going to want to, they want to be at the football.
Yes.
My daughter loves to cheer and all that stuff. So, but that's one of those sacrifices. They'll have to miss the fall festival unless they can pull a little double duty. I don't know. Mom she works some magic a lot of times, so she may be able to pull that off. So
absolutely, that's also a really cool thing. I see Mason out there, hanging out with you. Obviously, Delaney cheering with the big girls. What an experience for them too, to kind of grow up through the football world too. I think obviously some kids may not think that's as cool as others, but I think it's just a really cool thing that they get to do with you. And obviously you're coaching and you're spending time away from them, but for them to be able to be there with you on Friday nights has got to be pretty special.
It is, with the amount of time that I'm away from them in football season, that means the world to me. And I think that was one of the things that really, if I was really angry about something, with it went on was that being taken from my children. I mean, that as a dad, that bothered me.
Absolutely.
And so, for those guys to have that taken, but because they love it. I mean, they talk about it. They want to be at the games.
It's memories.
They have fun, and they've ever since they've been born, they've been able to been at the games and doing that kind of thing. So
special.
It's nice to have that back and to see those guys out there. And it's one of my favorite things after halftime to come out and give those guys a hug and a kiss. And kind of grounds me and kind of refocuses me on
what it's all about.
Yeah, it does, man. I'll tell you, and it kind of puts things in perspective. So it's been a blessing for me and for my wife to be able to. Because it's tough, for her to load 2 kids up and drive.
Yep.
Wherever and to bring them out there, it's tough on my wife to do that and then drive them home and all that sort of thing. So, I've been very fortunate, and that's one of the most special things to me and the people at Arnold. And even when I was at Bozeman, it was the same thing. I mean, they've been just incredibly gracious to my family, and I think people appreciate the sacrifices we make and how they've treated my children has just been, unbelievable, and I've been grateful for that.
Awesome. Very, very good to hear. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on, and good luck to you and your squad on Friday night. Get out there and watch some high school football tonight and tomorrow night. Jay, always a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you wearing the right colors today.
Yeah, I did.
You did good.
Yeah, it was planned. It was planned.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't know if I believe that, but I hope it is. I hope it was. But again, next Thursday?
Next Thursday it is.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Sounds good. I wish I had somebody as consistent on Tuesdays as I had you on Thursdays, and I didn't think I'd ever be able to say that.
Well, you had Colby. I mean, come on,
That's
Ryan.
true. That is true. He's the definition of inconsistency. But again, thank you, gentlemen. It was a pleasure, and thank you for everybody hanging out with us today on episode 17 of the Inside Drive podcast. We'll be back, God willing, on Tuesday and Thursday next week. Y'all have a great weekend. Get out there and watch some high school football and enjoy the weekend.